trainings on sales optimization and bonus plans, recruitment, along the lines of that. Okay, let's get moving here. We introduce, we get off the ground, we want it to be like an airplane, just get up in the air, go. You don't want to be hovering around the treetops. You don't want ice on your plane, on your wings. You want the growth stage to be as long and high as possible. The iPhone, introduced in 2007, it's 2024, it's still in growth mode. It's amazing, but it's a great product and a great company. At some point, it'll mature and level off and even decline, I suppose, but it hasn't yet. We're going to talk about what we do when sales go flat. All these words, you don't have to memorize them, know them. The whole point is there's different ways to say we've stagnated, we've leveled, we've plateaued, we've flatlined. If that's the case, and you realize it and you haven't thought through, who's you? Sales management, not the sales rep. Their job is to get up, go see customers, commit people to action, eventually a purchase of their product or service. In sales management, we've got to be thinking a little bit of today as well as the trends and where things are going. Okay, I'm going to talk about this product. I never sold it, my son did. It's an interesting product. It's a medical device. It's approved by the FDA. You just can't make it and start selling it. It has to get approved, even though it's not a medication. It's a medical device. And it's for migraine headaches. And the company was called electroCore. They've since been purchased. The product is GammaCore. It's a medical device for migraine headaches. It does not replace medications, either oral or injectable migraine prescription medicine. But if you can believe it or not, it's a device that you turn on, you put it on your neck where your jugular vein is, that's the blood supply up to your brain, and it vibrates it to the point where it causes relaxation. Now, I'm really simplifying it for my benefit because I don't understand all the science behind it. But it helps alleviate the pressure and the term migraine headache, which can be extremely debilitating to people that have it. Okay, you can see their tagline: reset, restore, relieve. Reset, probably just the blood flow and the activity in the brain to some extent. Restore the blood flow to it, relax the blood vessels, and alleviate some of that. I mean, that's how aspirin and acetaminophen work. They're relaxing, loosening is the wrong word, relaxing the blood vessels to relieve that pressure of a headache, or in this case, a migraine. All right, well, what about it? Well, they started off and they grew. Okay, I don't know the exact year they launched. Let's just say a couple years prior. And in 2015, their sales were 145. Now, admittedly, I'm going to be candid with you. Companies don't get this information out. I knew the product. I knew the struggles that it had over time. It was a good product, actually. The difficulty was getting insurance companies to pay for it and contract it. That's where they kind of ran into a snag. So let's just go with this. 145 million in 2015. They grew it to 24% the following year. They started to flatten plateau. 5% is growth, but it's not 24%. And then we see a trend here, don't we? 2.5% gain. And then 2019, it goes in reverse. Okay, we're selling less. And at this point, somewhere in here, the chief commercial officer, the CEO, the VP of marketing, the VP of sales, some or all of them are getting together to talk through why. Okay, and there'll always be reasons. To be honest, those are the easy things to come up with. Well, why? What's the issue? What's the problem? Competition, back order, sales force execution. What are we going to do about it? And that's where sales management comes in. This is the sales VP's job and the marketing VP, and they both have work to do, because if they're just pointing fingers at each other, you got a house of cards, the game's over. But there are specific actions that we're aware of, that we measure, that we address, and we look to alleviate, improve, fix. On the marketing side, the positioning statement may need to be adjusted. The actual message may need to be altered. The customer segment might need to be expanded or targeted even more specifically. The price might need to be looked at. Those are all marketing strategic roles. In sales management, we actually develop an annual plan. Sometimes it's written and put on in the old world, put on the shelf, okay, or in the computer and sits there, or you're working on it, measuring it, monitoring it, and when you see signals of distress, you see some things not trending the way you want, and we'll look at some of these here in the next few slides, then you have to jump on top of it. Okay. Well, what do? I'm just pausing for a second. We're not going to open it up and get your thoughts unless somebody feels like talking. But what do? Work harder? No, sorry, that's not the answer. Raise the price? That's not necessarily the answer. Hope and pray? No, that happens a lot, but that doesn't solve anything in this in this area. Okay, in terms of turning the sales around. We go back to our plan, we look at it. If we have not been measuring and monitoring it, shame on us, we need to start doing it, okay? And the expectation by the chief commercial officer or the CEO is, we're gonna fix it. We're gonna get the trend back going. Now, it's not if it doesn't, we're not out on the streets automatically, but if there's a pattern of moderate sales, not hitting our forecast, struggling to get good discipline within our marketing and sales organizations, they get rid of us, okay? They get rid of us. Okay, Salesforce, this is us. Marketing, they got their own things. We're not talking marketing today, we're talking sales. From the sales VP standpoint and his or her leadership team, remember the directors report to the VP, the managers report to the director, and then there's a whole bunch of people underneath them that are the individual sales reps that are calling on the actual customers. And we'll look at all these 1 through 6. They won't take a lot, it's a slide or two for each, okay? It's more than a suggestion. Make sure you know this, okay? Make sure you know this. There's all kinds of multiple choice, true, false, and even written questions for 20 points that I can, by the way, 61 people on the call, I will ask you. Okay, execution, activity, okay? How hard are we working? How many people are we seeing? Calls per day is how many sales presentations, not waving to the customer in the parking lot, actual discussions about our product and getting into the segment that we have a product in, or we're discussing. Are we calling on everybody just willy-nilly, or are we targeting the top deciles? Obviously, that's what we want to do, because that's where the business is coming from, either our business or our competitors. I'll continue to ask this, not just the midterm. Everything on the targeting by decile is focused toward the market basket. Our product and our key competitors, decile 10, most important. They may not be the highest purchasers of our product, because we look at the market basket. If they're using 5% of us, 5% market share or less, or 10, and they're using 20, 30, 50 of the competitor, that's why we're paying these reps fully loaded $220,000 to rectify that. Now, they're not going to switch them all overnight, but we want to get understanding, trial, usage, repeat usage of our product. But we have to look at the market basket in terms of our business and our key competitors, because everything's fair game. We all want to steal business from each other, legally, ethically, but convincingly. Are we getting new customers? What percent of our business is coming from first-time purchasers? What about, I'll just pick a number, our top 10 customers for our product? This time I'm talking about our specific product. Are we losing there? Are they starting to trend away and go to our competitors more than in the past? The market basket, what are those top 10 or 15, whatever the number is? It's not everybody, okay? Top 10. Our district managers should be, and we ask them to be in the field. Remember, they're the first line of management. The sales reps report to them. We want them in the field, working with reps, calling on important customers 4 days out of 5. Okay? If it's 1 or 2, that's a problem. Now, some weeks it is. They're in meetings, they're recruiting, doing other things. But by and large, they're the in-the-field coach, developer of talent, assessor of skills in the company. We need them out there. You know, we'll get the sales directors out there. We'll get me. If I'm the VP or you're the VP, we'll get us out there. There's nothing like experiencing a sales presentation and a sales interaction in person. You can read about it all you want, but if you're out there working and making a number of sales calls with sales reps, they do this presentation. We're there adding commentary, trying to stay out of the way, but we can assess how things are going. There are external audits. We'll pay customers some time to fill out a survey. How much effort they really put into it, that's open to debate. But those avenues are available. Now, no one's doing it unless you pay them, okay? Nobody's filling out a survey just to make you feel good or to help you out. That's not the customer's job. Now, if you sweeten the pot and give them X compensation for whatever time it is, and you'll get a better uptake. Take a look at this in yellow. We measure activity. We measure all these. We can put objective, specific measures. How many calls per day on average for each rep overall? Percent of new business with new customers. We can metric all this. We measure activity, but we pay bonuses, merit increases, and promote people based on what? Their performance. It's like sports. It's a performance-based industry. If a coach has had 3 losing seasons in a row, he may not want to re-up his golf membership at the country club, okay? Because things aren't looking real strong or real positive. We measure activity, we pay for performance. I don't know if it will be. I really don't. I haven't finalized the final yet. A lot of you aren't even going to take it. You're going to be happy with your packet score. But this would be a good fill in the blank. We measure blank, but we blank for performance or something along those lines. Okay, let's do these two. Are we delivering the value statement that marketing has generated and we've agreed to? Okay, the features, the facts, the advantage, so what, the benefits. Are we delivering a good sales message? And the other thing is, are we skilled at what we're trained and required to do? Good brief opener, couple fact-finding questions, good strong sales message, handling the objections, answering their questions, and closing. That is the sales process, no matter what industry you're in, along those lines. And you all did that when we sold, or you sold, a Tesla to, it wasn't the Marriott Corporation. We changed it. Can't remember. You sold it to us, okay? Okay. This is, the more people you see, especially, specifically the top deciles, okay, the harder you're working, the smarter you're working, and the stronger your sales message, not just going through the motions, not saying it's great, you'll love it, the more we're going to sell. It's the most linear business I've ever been around, okay? It's just how it works, okay? The people on the awards trip do this, and they do it consistently. And in yellow, if you don't believe this, you shouldn't be working for that company, or maybe you shouldn't even be in sales, okay? You gotta believe, if I can see these difficult, high decile doctors or customers, they don't have a lot of time for us. They're busy. Everyone's busy. We got to create value for them to see us, and we've got to deliver value. If we can see them, we can sell them, because that means in your mind you believe in the product you're selling, you believe in your company and how they provide and train and represent you and treat you fairly, and you believe in yourself. If any of those are askew, the customer can tell. You just have to see it. You hear me saying it, but if you were shadowing a sales rep right now, tomorrow, in a factory, in an office, and you saw that interaction and that discussion going on, you would be able to pick up on, is the sales rep engaged, focused, motivated to accomplish something? Do they have a plan? You can just sense it and feel it. Is the customer picking up on that? Or is everyone just sort of going through the motions and they're too nice to just cut it short? Okay. It's really interesting to see. Are we spending our money? We give sales representatives money to make more money, just like investing personally for your own portfolio. It takes money to make money. We would rather a sales rep get into a product discussion of some certain length off-site, not in their factory, not in their office, at a restaurant, at a bar, okay? That's a legitimate business expense, not to wine and dine them, but to get them out of their busy, stimulus-generating environment to where they can relax, they can think. You can begin to establish a relationship with them. You're not trying to make friends with them, but you're trying to establish a connection and establish trust and solve their problems. Okay, that all comes out when you can break bread, when you can relax a little bit, when you can really focus on that, not all the other things going on in that person's office or environment. If we're not spending, if a sales rep doesn't spend their money, what is it? It's almost May. Call it June. It's almost June. If they don't spend it by, or they're not trending to get it spent sometime over the summer, we'll take some of the money back from them. Okay, I mean, it's not their money to spend, but we allocate X dollars per month. We'd rather have money spent in May than in November. Okay, if people are just sitting on their funds and not making something happen in this environment, we won't take it all. We'll take a good portion and we'll give it to the people that are generating the business. Sometime it ain't fair. We're okay with that. We tell them up front, spend your money beginning at the start of the year. Don't spend it all, because there may not be more coming, but don't sit on it. Well, we've got to measure that. We do not do, I'm saying this for effect, I'll say it twice. We do not do number 5 only. We don't just throw money at a problem. Hey, whoever has the best month will get a weekend trip to Palm Springs. We don't do that. Okay, that's just throwing money if we're not working on these other specific metrics. Our sales message, our calls to top deciles, our selling skills, capabilities, our resource allocation, spending money and spending it on the right people. We don't just throw contests at problems. That doesn't work. But we'll augment it. We'll augment it if we're working on these others and we want to supercharge a little bit of energy. This is where we would throw in a specific 3-month contest like we talked about last week. Number 6, and not last, just happens to be number 6. Sometimes we just swap it out. We take the sales VP out. We let the San Diego sales rep go. And we don't just ride around on a horse and fire people, but we look through, and if a person's not delivering sales calls, if they're not generating sales, if they're not timely on what we ask them to provide us, okay, some sort of report. If they're going through the motions, we're not paying them for that. we're paying them to produce. We want them to have a good quality of life. We want them to spend time with whoever they care about. But at the same time, we're holding them accountable to managing their business in the fashion that we're paying them. And sometimes we'll make some decisions, put people on a plan if we're working toward improving it. The monkey's on their back. We don't take the monkey off and put it on our back. They got to fix it. They've got to get increased sales. How can we help? What help do you need from us? But at the end of the day, if I'm the sales VP, I have to turn it around. If you're the San Diego rep and your territory's lagging, you've got to turn it around. There is accountability in these jobs. I'm 32 years old, a long time ago. I get called into an office. It's actually the sales VP office, Kalamazoo, Michigan. And the man, sales VP, says, "Hey, big day for you." Right? Wow, what's going on? "Today, I'm offering you the sales director job for the Midwest part of the country. I'd like you to be the new sales director for the Midwest." "Well, what about John?" Yeah, I'm clueless. "What about John? Where's John going?" "John's going to stay with the company. He's the sales director the day before that day. I want new energy. I want new ideas. I want to put you in there. We're swapping out horses." And that's just a phrase he used. That's not any business term, but he's basically saying, John did a great job. All right, we appreciate all he's done. I just think it's time for a change, and I'm asking you to go lead this team of people. Okay, that's just how it happens sometimes. Now, the good news is John still had a job. John was put into a national account role, calling on, as it turns out, car manufacturers in Michigan. Okay, but he wasn't the sales director anymore. You do it for what's best for the company. You do it on your experience and your intuition, your gut feeling. And at the end of the day, the sales VP, Bob Perino, that was the man's name, the sales VP has to move the chess pieces in a manner that he thinks is going to be best for the company, generate business, and for people to prosper and do well, including for him to continue to have a job. If he just, well, John's a good guy, John's been in a little bit of a struggle lately, John's, at the end of his career, we don't expect as much energy. If you start playing that game, you're going to be the one, Bob, that's let go. Okay, I'm going to stop there. That's the things we work on. If there's any questions, come off, because I'm going to move to the next topic in a second. I'm going to have Julietta also come on. She's asked to make a verbal announcement on office hours because a lot of people are asking to meet. Julietta, why don't you go ahead?
I have a lot of you who want to go over the midterm, which is great. I have been getting all of your emails, but it has taken me a little bit to answer back. But I just want to remind everyone that my office hours are Monday and Wednesday from 1 to 2, and I'm doing it on a first come, first served basis. So if you want to go over your exam, you don't have to email me. You can just come, and I'll put you in a waiting room until it's your turn.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, Julietta. Now, remember, that's for reviewing the midterm. My office hours for the whole year are on Friday mornings by appointment. If you would like to talk with me about anything specific to the class or your future, your career, any thoughts, whatever, it's your 30 minutes. Email me and we can schedule time on Zoom. Okay, let's move to the second topic. This is large account management. We looked at this slide in lecture 1 in terms of the progression of sales jobs. They're market priced differently. The man or woman working at Best Buy doesn't make as much as the person calling on Apple from Qualcomm. And I think I used that example. Friend of a friend, my buddy, my high school roommate, he's my dentist, or was when I lived in California in San Diego. He's got a friend, and that friend of his, Bob is his name, he worked for Qualcomm, and he had one customer, and it was Apple. And Apple is Qualcomm's largest customer. And he had years of experience and he was very successful. And I like to say, because he said it when I was with him, he goes, "They won't let me retire." And I laughed. I said, "What do you mean they won't let you retire?" He says, "Well, I could, but they make it so darn difficult by throwing things my way to encourage me to stick around another year, another couple quarters." He goes, "At some point, I'm going to pull the plug. Enough's enough. I've had it." But he said they're making it really hard. And they're making it really hard because they value him in that point person role with Apple. All right, let's talk about large account management. First, we're going to hear some thoughts from a quote 2-year-old, and then I'm going to give you an actual large account example from my past. Okay. Here's what I'd like you to do on these slides. These are my slides. They're in different format, kind of a blueprint. I want you just to listen. I'm going to wrap that part of it up in a little bit. Don't take notes on everything. I just want you to soak this in, and then it'll make sense when I get to more of the case study example of mine. Slide or so for each of these, 6. Introduction of large account, the principles, identification, competencies, training, pros and cons of having a large account management function, best-in-class companies. Which companies do it really well? That's what I'm going to speak to before I get to my example from the past. Okay, I'm not going to read all these. LAM, that's large account management. Strategic approach to managing key accounts. Okay, we carved out a specialty sales force for the federal government. The federal government was our largest customer. They're a complex customer. They're not the easiest to work with. They're good people, but it's just a big machine, as you know, the federal government. So we dedicated a group that all they do is call on this customer, and they get proficient and skilled at calling on them. Okay, why? Increase our revenue, to establish hopefully long-term relationships, solve their problems, whatever their needs are. Principles. All right, his name is Bob. He lives in San Clemente. If a Qualcomm account manager for Apple, it's a customer-centric approach. It's not just Bob. There's a number of people calling on Apple, but somebody's got to drive the ship. Somebody's got to manage and give direction, and that was Bob's role. Cross-functionally, you've got a number of people, from salespeople to technical people working with that account, always continuously looking to strengthen the relationship and have a long-term focus. And value creation is a fancy word for saying generate revenue and profits. Okay. I got too many things here. Identification of accounts. Who qualifies? Big customers, ones that are complex, where strategically it's to our advantage to do it, and that would be at some point in time profitable. Otherwise, we're not just treading water. We don't want to just spend money and not make any money. Okay, why did Bob get that job, or what does it take to grow into that job? Well, you're not looking at just a treetop level, just making that immediate sell. You're looking at building and establishing the relationship with important customers. Communication, negotiation, analytical. We've talked about several of these, including negotiation just the other day. That's what they do. That's what he does for a living. Okay. When we get somebody that's been a very strong salesperson in a territory and we promote them into this larger responsibility, more accountability, oh, by the way, we pay them a lot more money. These are the things that we will train them on. We don't just turn them loose on General Motors or Apple. There's a training program in place, and this would fall under the realm of the sales training department. That reports up to the VP of sales. Okay. Why? Increase our revenue, increase our relationships and loyalty, establish relationships. It's very complex, it's very expensive, uh, but hopefully worth it, okay? But it just doesn't, you just don't snap your fingers and make it happen. There's a lot that goes into it. I think this is the last slide. Well, who's good at it? Well, according to the data that I pulled together, well, you've heard of all of these companies, IBM. These are large companies with complex products spread out across a number of different platforms. IBM, Oracle, Amazon Web Services, Salesforce, Microsoft. It's not a surprise they're raised to the top, okay, in terms of what products they have and the customers, the varied customers are calling on. Now, in full disclosure, I think this is kind of interesting. I got onto ChatGPT and Gamma app, which is another somewhat similar artificial intelligence platform, and I just wrote a question, and I wanted, where are me? I just asked it to respond, answer these questions, and I wrote it in the form of developing a presentation. Now, it was a lot more convoluted than this. I had to clean it up and organize it, but it did the heavy lifting. This is your artificial intelligence at work, and it did a nice job. Now, it's a little stiff, okay? I just wanted you to listen to it. I don't think I have, and I'll commit to you right now. I'm not going to ask you anything specific here other than what's the overall intent of strategic large account management. Important, complex customers that require some leadership from a senior sales executive salesperson. That's the gist of it. I thought that was kind of interesting. ChatGPT. I kind of badmouth ChatGPT sometimes because it's often outdated or at times wrong. This one I thought it did a pretty good job. Now I'll give myself an ounce of credit. I think I wrote a pretty good request to it, but it came through. Okay, can you boil this down to something that we can actually touch and feel in a specific example? Let me give you one. Let's go to Los Angeles. There's your Chamber of Commerce photo on New Year's Day in the Rose Bowl. There's downtown LA, obviously, San Gabriel Mountains. In LA, between LAX and Marina del Rey, is a series of industrial buildings. One of them's this one, and it's a medical building. And the people of the Kerlan-Jobe Orthopedic Clinic are housed in here. I've been in this building for work, and I've been in this building for surgery, okay? I've personally made the decision, I want these guys doing surgery on me. And it wasn't anything dramatic, but they did it. Kerlan-Jobe, Frank Jobe, Robert Kerlan, two doctors. Just like the Mayo Clinic, two brothers formed the initial Mayo Clinic, but the Kerlan-Jobe Orthopedic Clinic is world-renowned. So is the Mayo Clinic. But the Kerlan-Jobe Clinic for orthopedic surgery is world-renowned. And this baseball player sitting there is part of what put them on the map and elevated them to that status where people from all over the world, literally, will come and not get a heart transplant. That's the Cleveland Clinic. They'll come here for their orthopedic requirements. This is Tommy John. Some of you already know where I'm going. Tommy John played baseball for the Dodgers in the 1970s. Tommy John is seen right here pitching. Look at that arm. The human arm was not designed to undergo that stress thousands of times a year, or certainly thousands in the course of a career. And when the elbow, the officially ulnar collateral ligament tore, it literally tears the ligament in your elbow, you were done. Your career was over. And this happened to Tommy John. And Frank Jobe, he's pictured there on the right, he developed this surgery where you take a tendon from the other part of the body, Tommy John's body, either from the leg or the other arm, drill some holes. I'm really simplifying it because I don't understand exactly how this is done, and put in a new tendon. And you can see on the left, it's not easy, and you can see on the right, it's for orthopedic surgery, it's major surgery. And in this case, usually it's a pitcher. Other position players can have Tommy John surgery, but usually a pitcher from doing this crazy motion, it takes over a year to heal, okay? And there's no guarantee, but many/most come back and resume their career. And in the prices or the income they're making, it's extensive. Well, Frank Job Robert Kurland retired and eventually passed away. The clinic continues, and a new generation of physicians have taken over. This is Lou Yoakum. Lou Yoakum was the team doctor for the California, now Anaheim Angels baseball team, all right, in Anaheim, Orange County. And for 36 years, he was the team doctor. But he was the team doctor not just for the Angels, but every other major league team and major college programs. Now, it's not just him doing Tommy John surgery, but when athletes, pitchers blow out their arm, he gets phone calls. And I'll go into our relationship real quickly. There's only a few more slides, but I wanted to talk about establishing a relationship with the customer. This is not the federal government, but this was in the western part of the country, as well as the entire country, the most influential, respected orthopedic clinic, along with James Andrews in Alabama, in the country. And whatever they did surgically or medically, people would take note. Okay, they were thought leaders. I scrubbed in with his partner in surgery. This is in what, 2001 maybe. And I'm in that clinic, and they have their own surgical suite, and I scrubbed in just to establish a relationship. We didn't have any operating room products. We had post-surgical pain products. And we finished surgery, and the doctor, Dr. Shields, went to get dressed and go treat patients in a suit and tie in the office. And in came Lou in his scrubs, Dr. Yoakum. And I knew he was a team doctor for the Angels because I used to work at Angel Stadium. I used to sell peanuts when I was in junior high. And I knew they had a spring training at a small little city in California that no one's ever heard of. And I said to Lou when he came in, Lou, I said, hey, Craig Everhard, the Upjohn Company, I said, I just curious, were you the team physician when the Angels had spring training in Holtville? Not Phoenix or Palm Springs, Holtville, California. And he looked at me, he goes, sit down, we got things to talk about. And no one's asked him a question about that time frame. I just asked him because I was curious. This wasn't some strategic, I'm going to establish a relationship with Lou Yoakum and Kurland Job. I was just curious because I grew up in Anaheim. I worked at Angel Stadium. And we developed a friendship. We just sort of clicked. And orthopedic surgeons, this is just a mock-up. This is from the TV show Scrubs. Orthopedic surgeons are difficult to get to. They don't want to be in the clinic. They want to be in the OR cutting and doing surgery. They tend to be a little brash, a little bit overconfident. I'm not speaking of every one of them, but they tend to be ex-athletes. They tend to be very assertive and aggressive, and they don't make much time for small talk. They're tough to get. And so we went to Lou and we said, what if we, Lou, took you to some cities, paid them an honorarium, of course, and had you interact with orthopedic surgeons around the western part of the U.S. And don't talk about our drug. Don't talk about medication, because orthopedic surgeons don't care. They're not interested in that. They're only interested in the technique of surgical procedures. And what if we had them bring you their most difficult case, and you guys sit around a table, have dinner, drink some wine, and you guys talk it through? He said, I'm in, let's do it. And we did it. And I think my next slide, we went up We went up to Fairbanks, Alaska, and there was guys flying from Juneau, Alaska, all parts of Alaska to come up to this. Now, this is an exaggeration. They came out of the woodwork. That's my only point here. Because we didn't try and sell them something, we brought them value in lieu, and we bought them an opportunity or environment where they could get better, as well as socialize and all the things that go with that. Okay? This is 20 years ago plus. Let's do it. Best 3 hours. Can't believe you didn't pound us with product. That was, they said, thanks for not just pounding us, trying to sell us something, give us a steak dinner. How did you convince Lou to do this? And actually, Lou did it not for the money, we paid him, but Lou did it because he enjoyed interacting, looking at tough cases, giving them his opinion and his thoughts. And not to the person, not to the man or woman, at the end of these meetings, they'd come up to our sales rep, and we were there quietly in the background, but they knew we put on the show, and they would say, I want you in my office tomorrow. In other words, what their message was, I'm going to pay you back. And when we would go visit them, what do you make? How can I help you? And we tracked these doctors and their business, and it went through the roof. And this is a small example. This isn't calling on, like I said, huge corporations, but this mindset of establishing a long-term relationship, providing value of the product, of what we can provide to them, pays off. And once salespeople get to that level, they're not at the treetop level. Once salespeople get to that level and can see the broader picture, really good things have a chance of happening. As it turns out, Lou passed away in 2013. You can see he's thinner there. Look at him. They named the training center in the training room at the Angel Stadium after him. That's the trainer on the left. That's Jared Weaver, a successful pitcher for the Angels several years back. He passed away in 2013. I went to his funeral. Nolan Ryan was there. Nolan Ryan, if you know baseball, all-time strikeout leader, flew from Texas to Los Angeles to go to his funeral. He and his wife came. It was amazing how many former baseball players showed up as a tribute, okay, a thank you. To one, his friendship, and two, to be honest, for saving their career, many of them extending their career. This is the guy I scrubbed in with. He's still working. He was the team doctor for the LA Rams, Clarence Shields. He is on the sidelines in Los Angeles high schools where they don't have money, and he's got a foundation through Curl and Job, of which we would contribute some money to, not a lot. More importantly, we went to Clarence and said, Clarence, after our sales reps use their computers, we don't throw them away. We put them back in the home office called the morgue, and they kind of sit there, and I'm not sure what happens to them. What if we got those computers gently used? They're not the most current. What if we got you those computers and you could distribute them to the trainers around Los Angeles? And he had the biggest smile on his face. And it was another example. These are small things, but you're just trying to think, how can we establish a connection, a relationship with these people? It's no surprise, Dr. Elatraj, LA Lakers team doctor, Curlin Job, orthopedic surgeon, the $700 million man, Shohei Ohtani, Angels last year, Dodgers this year. He blew out his arm last year. He had Tommy John surgery. He's not pitching this year. He's hitting, and he's hitting a ton. $700 million contract, 10 years. Dr. Elatraj did the surgery on Shohei Ohtani. Okay, let me finish with this. This is a real plan. This is a real presentation I gave. There's going to be sales comp, sales analytics, messaging, everything. I wouldn't say everything. Almost everything we've talked about is wrapped up in this presentation. I'm teaching at UCSD in February of 2016, my first year. I had been in business 35 years prior to that. I get an email saying, hey, your former CEO suggested I reach out to you. I'd like to have dinner with you, and we did right there in La Jolla. I'd like to have dinner and see if you would do some consulting work for us to form a small sales force. We have a pretty cool product. We're going to focus our efforts only on the military and VA hospitals. And to be candid with you, we'd like to get off the ground, do well, and in 2 to 3 years, we'd like to sell it for a large sum of money to somebody else that wants to take it to that next level. And this was the CEO. And I met and had dinner. And he said, I know you're teaching. I know I'm not asking you to quit your job, but I'd like you to do a little work. In 2 weeks, I'd like you to come to Austin, Texas, and present to the board. And the board is a bunch of retired generals and admirals, etc., in the various armed services, because our customer is military bases, airfields, etc., Navy ships, and VA hospitals. And I said, okay. And he said, what do you charge? And I told him some crazy number, and he said, okay. And so 2 weeks later, I had a presentation, and here it is. Microdermis is the company. If you've had surgery, you come out of surgery or a relative, and you see this copper-colored solution, lotion, on your knee or your elbow, wherever the surgery was done. That's a topical antibiotic called betadine, and it's basically iodine. And bacteria have cell walls, and iodine penetrates cell walls, opens it up, and it kills the bacteria. And so you're worried about internal infection, but you also don't want soft tissues to get infection. So betadine is always put on post-surgically. Well, this product that this company Microdermis developed is an iodine-based product, but it has stronger potency and cosmetically a little bit more pleasing. It didn't give you a rash and irritate your skin. Well, okay, let's see if there's a market for it. And there you can see there's some of their branding they did. Here's my presentation. I'm going to fly through it. I just want you to listen into, here's the topics that we talked about in the past coming to life in this actual presentation. Well, who are we going to recruit? What territories are we going to make? Sales optimization. How are we going to scale it up over the next 2 to 3 years, not 10? They want to sell this product and this company for a lot of money and go off and do something else. How do we train the reps? How do we measure them? How do we reward them? Oh, by the way, I was the marketing guy too in this consulting venture. What marketing materials will we need to arm the salespeople with when they call on these customers? We're going up against a generic. Betadine's generic at this point. It's pennies. And we've got a product that's not pennies. How can we create and generate value to where we can get our product purchased and used in these hospitals? How much are we going to sell? Okay, sales forecast. I had 2 weeks. I pulled it together. I went to Austin, Texas, stood in front of them. Well, let's go get some people that have done it before, called on federal government accounts. And I knew some people around the country that had done that. And you can see some other things, successful, etc. I had the data that the company had. How many surgical procedures are done in each of these military bases or VA hospitals around the country? Because if you're having surgery, you have the potential to have betadine used in probably every instance. And let's see if we can get betadine replaced with ours. It's more expensive, but we've got to prove to them it's better and better for the patient. Well, the number one hospital in terms of surgery is down in San Antonio, Texas. That's number one. Number two, Walter Reed, where the presidents always get their physicals. In Virginia, number two. Number three is in our backyard, Balboa Park, the Naval Hospital, the Naval Treatment Center in Balboa Park does the third most surgeries of all federal government institutions in the world, in the country. All right, well, you see where they're sort of clumped. We're not going to get a super sales rep based out of Minnesota up there in the northern part of the country. He or she's going to be on a plane half the week instead of in front of customers. So what would we do? I took the surgeries, decided, clumped them into 4, went and specified the specific accounts. What they were doing prior to me was when somebody would contact them, they'd fly to Maine or Arkansas or somewhere, and make a single sales call. That's not efficient. You're not going to sell anything that way. So if we get those calls, we'll handle them by phone, but 220,000 fully loaded reps are only going to call on these customers in a prioritized fashion. In red was the people I had contacted. There were some other fallback people. This is where they live. This is the companies they came from, and did they have federal government experience? They said, well, how do you know these people? I've worked with all of them. They've worked up through me. I vouch for them. I would want them on my team. They're like, okay. 3-year plan, start with 4, increase slowly. We're not going to have 200 reps, and then merge eventually into some commercial hospitals, okay? UCSD Medical Center, Scripps, okay, not just federal government. There's your fully loaded sales rep, 200 to 225K, okay? Almost $1 million with 4 of them. Now, normally in a large sales force, you'd remember the sales management number into that. With such a small number, you really can't do that. So we would need a national director of some sort. It probably wasn't going to be me. I already had a job. That wasn't determined just yet. This is where they got really mad. This is where they started swearing at me. The former admiral for the Pacific Fleet, African-American gentleman, really sharp guy, blew his lid. He says, are you effing kidding me? I'm the former admiral of the U.S. Navy, Pacific Fleet. I never made anything near that. You're telling me you're going to pay your reps $225,000? And I said, no. I said, we're not. I said, let me clarify. I think I had mentioned what that referenced. That's salary, benefits, bonus, car, transportation, gas, hotel, computer. That's what it's going to take to get a qualified federal government rep who's done it before with other companies and other products, calling on these targeted customers. That's what it's going to take to play. And I said it and stood my ground. I mean, they can kick me out of the room, they can disagree. And he goes, oh, okay. Okay. Hey, remember our launch plan? We aren't going to rank them. We don't have any history to goal them on market share change or market share. We'll go commission based. 5% of everything they sell, they'd get. So it'd be $15 a case. I targeted, now this is where it's some funny math. The math's correct. The actual, would we hit this or not? This is my goal. 32,000 target bonus. We pay out quarterly, that's $8,000. Remember, $8,000 per quarter. They'd have to sell, each rep would have to sell 533 cases per quarter at $300 a case to earn that 8,000. If they sold 750,000 cases, they'd get what? 10, 11,000. It's all uncapped. And, now at this point, they're kind of shaking their heads. I get it. Makes sense. They've never run this before. A general in the Army has never run a sales force. I don't know what they do and couldn't do it. They don't know what I do and couldn't do it. How long is it going to take? 30 to 45 days. I've identified, I've talked to them. We haven't offered them a job yet because you haven't given me the green light to go ahead and do that. But this is what it would take in terms of getting them on board and trained and sales meetings during the year. 25 grand. I'm the bottle washer. I'm the truck driver. I'm the marketing guy. I'm the sales operations person here. Okay, but just me. I would get it kickstarted. How much did each territory sell? Added up total. What's their bonus projection? Activity, what are their activity reports? Remember, we're going to measure their activity, pay for performance. I would develop the targeting by decile reports. We would go out and work with them. Somebody, I don't know who that is. Was it going to be me or someone else? Go out and work with them and coach and train them. And then each rep would have a territory action plan, a business plan. That all has to be developed. All right, here's a 35-day, you give me a go, we can have them up, hired, trained, and in the field in 45 days. I can't say it if I can't do it, but I felt I could. I really did. I'm the marketing guy. We need a sales brochure. We need a clinical reprint that speaks to the facts, a third party saying this is different, this is better based upon a clinical study. They actually had that. They weren't using it, believe it or not. But you can't just go in and say we have a great product and it costs 5 times as much. Will you buy it from us? You have to produce data that validates the premium price you're asking for. Slide presentation to give it, lunches, samples to leave with them. All right, that has to be developed. Sales forecast, won't get into it. I kind of just did a little chicken scratch and came up with a number. It was different than theirs because they had every VA, a military hospital in the country with an assigned number. If you're not calling on them, you're not going to sell them. You can't get to everybody. So there was a little bit of reality setting there. Okay, we're almost done. What happened? Well, they ran out of money before we could hire them. Actually, the meeting's over. They kicked me out. They wanted to talk it over. The CEO came out, put his arm around me, thanked me. We want you, let's do it. And we're just waiting on some funding. Well, fast forward at least a month or so, and the money never came. And we never, fortunately, we never made offers to people because they would have been out of work very quickly. And it never happened. I worked for 4 months and received no pay. I had about $3,000 in expenses, and I'm going to tell you something. The only reason I'm telling you this is for you not to run into this mistake I made. I was owed a fairly large sum of money and my expenses. I didn't get paid, nor did anyone else within the company. There was probably 10 people working at the company, and I'm the consultant, and I was at the back of the line, but they even didn't get paid. I shared this with a colleague of mine who had been in the consulting business, and he laughed. He said, Craig, we've all been there. He said, just a little pearl for the future. If you're doing work for IBM or Amazon or Apple, they're going to pay you. If you're doing work for a startup, you need to get half of it, 50% up front. Otherwise, don't lift a finger and don't agree to anything. And that's the best advice I could have got. Now, obviously, I got X $1,000s too late, but that's some really good advice. For those of you in the future that'll be doing some consulting work, if it's a big established company, they're going to pay you. Okay, in all likelihood, they will. They have the money. If it's a startup, which was what this was, don't do a darn thing unless you get, I'll call it 50%. You're going to have them send you money. It's going to be in your bank account for a few days until you decide what to do with it. And then you go to work. Okay, on Monday, we're going to talk about a number of things, including principles and leadership. I just picked a few people. They're not business people, most of them. You know this guy, one of the greatest Americans that ever lived. And we'll look at some personality, competencies that strong leaders have. We'll do some other things, but I'm just teeing that up for when we get together on Monday. Okay. Have a good weekend, everybody, or as you lead into it, if you have any questions